Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Lodgify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts. Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.
Welcome to Good Morning Outdoors, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the outdoor hospitality industry. From campgrounds and RV parks to glamping, outdoor resorts, adventure travel, and ecotourism, we'll be discussing all things outdoor travel and hospitality, so join us on Good Morning Outdoors every Thursday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning.
Good morning. Got an exciting one here today. Good morning, Seth. Good morning, Tori.
Hey.
Yeah, for most people who are typically accustomed to just seeing Matt and I on this, you can get a break from us a little bit today. And we've got some really exciting, amazing special guests. I know, Matt, you had the pleasure of talking with them for our other interview style podcast here recently. Yeah. And obviously we're big fans of both Seth and Tori and everything that they built over at Bolt Farm. Matt, why don't you just maybe give them a chance to give an introduction, and we can set everybody up for the news we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I had the fortune to meet Seth in person a few weeks back at that Live Oak Bank event, which was awesome. Loved the talk. Came away super inspired from that. Kept in touch. You talked more about, kind of what's going on. I think probably a lot of our listeners have probably heard of Bolt Farm Treehouse and Seth and Tori, and but that being said, they've got some exciting news to share today. I think we'll dive a little bit into the story for those who aren't familiar. But I think why don't you take it away, guys? We'll give you the floor for a little bit. We've got some questions about what you've got going on. We've got some news stories. We'll save a few minutes at the end for. But why don't you share a little bit about who you guys are, what you're working on, and then hit us with the big news.
Okay, cool. We'd love to. So yeah, we're broadcasting live from one of our tree houses here in Tennessee, and really like two big announcements. One is that we are launching a first ever for the industry. We've looked high and low, and we haven't seen that anyone else has done this, but we are releasing. We've built a floating mirror that's suspended between two boulders, and so it's like a mirror cabin concept.
I was going to say I'll put the renderings up for those of you who are visual like me and want to see what this is, because it is incredibly cool.
So our property, as you can see kind of from this rendering, like we're on the side of a cliff and we're also on top of a mountain. So imagine a view of 3 states, which is what we have. Wow. And being surrounded by just all this gorgeous stone. And right next to the floating mirror is our new wellness haven, which is a multi-acre spa and wellness concept that has steam rooms and saunas and cold plunges and actually 3 different hot springs pools with waterfalls. There's 2 natural waterfalls right on each side of this as well. So it was fun to build, and it was a long time in the making. Obviously we imagined the permitting and the work required to actually engineer something that is going to be extremely safe and secure, while also trying to make all of the infrastructure that supports this thing disappear. That was the science and the magic of it. But like Elon says, real, like the best technology feels like magic. And so I love to build creative things, and I love to create just one of a kind experiences for people. That's what we've been doing since day one. We're 10 years into this journey now of creating like these penthouse suite luxury treehouse experiences. Like, for example, this is in the closet of the treehouse.
It's not in the closet. Yeah.
Why in a closet?
What you can't see are the heated marble floors and like the indoor shower and the hand carved furniture. I mean, everything we do, we try to do, the very best.
It's funny, it's a treehouse style cabin. You know, people still say like, so like, is there indoor plumbing? And I'm like, we have heated toilet seats. It's the nicest thing you've ever stayed in.
Yeah.
It's the beauty of the blend of like a truly inspiring location and nature and all, you know, the ways that that's so good for the human spirit, combined with, you know, sparing no expense on the architecture and the experience. And that leads me to the second big announcement, which is like, we are hiring, we are scaling our team. We have got so many different job positions up. So like, I mean, and we want to work with the best of the best in hospitality. Like our mission is to truly revolutionize hospitality and human connection. And like from the testimonials, if you read the testimonials, we've got over 22,500 5-star reviews. Like this place is doing something. Like it's not a place to stay. You know, it's a place where you can really go and reconnect. We're adults only. And so we're driven by purpose and the fact that like we have the opportunity to create generational impacts, because, you know, people leave here and say like, you know, this stay probably added 25 years to our marriage. I mean, think about the impact that has on the next generation. I rediscovered my best friend. I gained clarity on like the road ahead and how I'm going to lead my team or my business to the next level, things like that.
Right.
So, I mean, that's what really charges us up and does, I guess, gives us the strength to develop a mountaintop, which is not easy, but we're at 20. Right. We're growing. We'll double in size in terms of the number of villas we have on top of this mountain over the next 18 months. And so our team is going to grow as well. And so we're looking for people who like love nature, love being on top of the world, literally, physically, and helping people.
Nice. And so guys, what was it about this that you said, you know, if you're being that this would be an industry first, like where did this idea come from? What made you say like, we're going to test the boundaries of what architecture and design can really come together, and you guys having this really uniquely positioned part of the property? Was it something that one day you looked at the space and said, this is what I think needs to go here? Or where did the idea for this unit even come from?
I believe it is a fundamental mistake to sit behind a laptop or office and design a nature resort or any sort of thing, like and decide, okay, well, how many units can we get on this and what can we do? I mean, like we go the opposite direction. Like we camped in a tent on this property and like experience like where's the sunrise and where's the sunset and what's it like and what are the sounds and how do we want to position each and every unit. And like I go to like all links. Like I'll have the surveyors come back like 5 times if that's what it takes to make sure that tree is like right outside the kitchen window. You know, like if that gives you a sense of like how detail oriented we are about the experience, and people feel that like when you experience that level of thoughtfulness, you know, 100 times over during a vacation, you know, you feel it. You either consciously recognize it or subconsciously you just feel like you're at Disneyland for adults or something.
Yeah, I love it.
It's really like it was like letting the land really tell me what it wanted to be. And we had this super unique piece with these rock outcroppings and everything. And I was like, something wants to be here, you know? And so I got to measuring and thinking about it and dreaming about it. And I was like, I think we need to have an experience, a one-of-a-kind experience on the property, just like this, that still gives people that view of 3 states and then access to the new wellness haven as part of the accommodation.
Incredible. I think it's important to note here that, you know, the creativity is what leads the experience, the guest experience, the uniqueness of everything that you're doing. You know, it's so clear that you guys lead with that. And it's something that I think is so hard for a lot of people that are entering this space to kind of adopt and wrap their minds around. You mentioned like, don't design it from a laptop. Like, I think so many people get stuck in the spreadsheet, and like, yeah, almost to some degree, what you guys are doing is like, cost is really no object. I'm sure that's not actually true. You know, the numbers matter and you guys are doing wonderful things with the numbers, but like, you're not leading with that. At least that's not how I perceive it. So I think that's something very special. Am I kind of onto something with that, or am I way off base?
Tori says that's how I like to spend money.
That's how he would like. No, we've got our budget, we got our numbers to hit. I would say like we definitely have our budget. Like we're a swampy family business, like
right.
we don't have like big investors that, behind the scenes just pumping money into our business. We just try to spend money on the things that really matter, that like that's high touch, high experience for the guest. And then where can we save in other areas? And so I think a good example of that was the Wellness Haven. As we were dreaming that up, I say we started with Seth. He's dreaming, I'm do it. He's like getting quotes for this like giant like infinity pool on the side of the mountain, which would have been awesome. But it was, what was the quote? Like $1 million.
Oh yeah, it would have been over $1 million.
Over $1 million for one single pool. And he's like, no, it just doesn't feel like a good use of that money. Like it's one feature. How can we use that same amount of money and make multiple features? And that's what we created today, with the multiple hot springs, the cold plunge, all of that for like the same cost of the pool. So we're just trying to, I guess we use the money, I guess we play smarter.
For sure. No, yeah, you guys are crushing it. So the pragmatic spreadsheet guy in me has some questions. Like,
let's go.
When I see this unit, I immediately think that must have been quite an engineering bill to feel secure about doing something like this. So was that? I mean, you said it was a long time in the making. I would assume a lot went into the engineering for this.
Oh yeah, like the geo testing. Boring samples of the rocks to make sure that they could hold the giant steel beams that would span across underneath, that would, that we would ultimately hide and conceal so that it appears to be floating. But it's not actually floating. It's, but that was the thing. And, I'll say this too. Like, I think nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? Some things, like if it's not a risk, and if failure is not an option, then I don't think it's really that you're trying hard enough.
Sure.
I mean, failure has been an option this entire time, and it's been like a 2.5-year journey on this one thing from concept. But like that was the same thing was true before the first treehouse was built. Like it literally took me 2 years to convince anyone to build the first treehouse with me, and it was ultimately built on the farm that I grew up on. That's how we got our name. Our last name's Bolt Farm. Yeah. We built the treehouse there, built it with my dad. But they were like, we live in a small country town in South Carolina, and they're like, no one visits here. So like, how are you going to get anyone to come stay in a treehouse? And like, who's going to rent a treehouse? And this was like in 2013 when I was like laying out the case for them. And so being a spreadsheet guy myself, I was like, okay, let me show you, like, there's a couple examples of people who are doing this. And they're crushing, and I think we can too, and I can do it better than them. And finally, my dad was like, "Okay, let's build this." He's in construction. I grew up in construction.
Love it.
It's like a merger of like my creative brain and my engineering,
and
that side of my brain to launch this and get it off the ground. I met Tori during the process, so then I was inspired by love to make this where we would honeymoon ultimately. So we got married on the farm, honeymooned in the treehouse, and had like just this quiet, sacred space where we had no distractions, no interruptions. We were inspired by our surroundings, and inspired all kinds of great conversation, where we could just, dream out loud and journal and pray and just like figure out, okay, what do we want life to be like? Like, we felt like we've got a lot of potential and this power couple type energy. And we're like, where do we want to channel that? How can we do the most good with it? How can we impact the most people? And then by the end of that honeymoon, we were like, I think we need to do more of this. Like, this is this lightning in a bottle here. And we feel fortunate to be in this position. And sometimes it's a heavy weight to carry, but I think the hard work is worth it when you hear the stories. And like, we're on property all the time. So like, we get that direct feedback, and that fuels us to keep going. And we have an incredible feedback loop. And I think part of how we've been able to accelerate and become one of the biggest brands in the outdoor hospitality space is because we're that connected to our people, to our guests. And then we also have been steadily recruiting a stable of stallions to help us with this, because it's a really big undertaking. There's a lot of people to serve.
Love it. That was something that really struck me. I listened to a few podcasts that you guys were on, and, I keep tabs on the industry by seeing who's hiring. And that just really struck me to see the level of detail in the hiring, the roles that were open. And like my first reaction was like, wait, are they opening like 10 more locations? But and the answer is maybe in the future, but not right now. And I think that speaks to the level of service, the guest experience that, you know, you put together this all-star world-class team to serve, you know, your guests. And for those who aren't super familiar with Bolt Farm Treehouse, correct me if I'm wrong, this is, what number unit is this going to be? 23?
24.
24. Yeah. 24. So you've got 24 different types of units. You've got tree houses, domes, and mirror cabins.
Yeah.
How many of each?
Oof.
Yeah.
I got to keep up. Oh my gosh. So we've got 8 domes.
I like that answer. Yeah, just a lot of them.
8 domes, 5 mirrors. The floating will be our 6th mirror, and then the rest are tree houses. So do the math.
Yeah, we want to be the SpaceX, right, of hospitality, and do things,
pushing the boundaries and the limits of what's possible. Yeah,
like I think there's a lot. I mean, obviously, I think a lot of people who are in the outdoor hospitality space kind of, you know, maybe they view, you know, urban hospitality as, or the like sort of the old model of how people experience travel and hotels and stuff as crusty. And obviously there's some people doing some really innovative things in that space too. So credit to them. But it's just, isn't it kind of like, have you ever thought about this? Like, is it not surprising that only in the years 2000 was it like we combined nature and like this penthouse concept? You know what I mean? Like it's so obvious. It was obvious to me 10 years ago. I was like, why is no one doing this? I was like, what is the biggest brand in, you know, outdoor hospitality that's doing like luxury outdoor hospitality? And there's just not that many.
Right. I mean, yeah, we study the space very closely, and you're spot on. I mean, Under Canvas typically gets, you know, called like the pioneer of American glamping, and they were founded in 2009. And then it took until 2015, 2016 for like the next big player to get in the space. And even so, like, you know, Postcard Cabins just sold the brand to Marriott at 29 locations.
This is such a great tie into stories coming up later here today.
Right. So like, you know, it's we're in the infancy stage of this business, and it's, you know, it's always, you know, we Alex and I started in the old fashioned camping business and have kind of gone upstream and upmarket to glamping and then luxury cabins, and kind of there's this new like, you know, landscape hotels, landscape resorts, outdoor lodging, outdoor resorts. And there's segments kind of developing of like mid-scale, you know, $200 to $300 a night, and then upscale. I mean, you guys are obviously, you know, offering such a unique experience and so much more than just, you know, heads in beds, that you can command a really incredible ADR. So yeah, with that being said, I, you know, we've got some news stories. Some were kind of relevant to what you guys, you know, are working on and what you're experts in. So we wanted to get some of your input on those. I do have a hard stop in about 9 minutes. I got to catch a flight. But you guys can stay on with Alex and continue. But this,
I was going to say, Matt, before we get into the news here, do you just want to give people a sense? You're actually heading off to the New York Real Estate Gala. You just want to plug that quick before we run out of time for you to get a chance to talk about it. I'm sure you'll have a chance to talk about it the following week.
Mexico for vacation.
No, I'm flying from Syracuse, New York to Manhattan to attend this. It shows you the power of social media. You know, it's a 250 person black tie gala put on by strip mall guy Don Tepman, and you know, went last year. It was an incredible experience. Really generous event that Don and Bob Knackle put on here, so it should be fun. We have some listeners live on Twitter right now, so if anybody is attending, feel free to DM, reach out. Love to get a drink beforehand or find some time to meet up at the event. But it's all different types of commercial real estate professionals and investors, and just really, really awesome networking event. So if anybody's listening that's going to be there, see you in a few hours.
Love it. And with that being said, we kind of started talking about a good tie into our first story today. And really, this was it came out in Thrillist, but I think Matt, you and I both saw it in Woodall's and some other places as well.
Yeah.
It was pretty highly trafficked this week. Talking about how glamping's corporate makeover might be a good thing for travelers. And I think we started talking about some of the brands that are involved in sort of the more, upscale glamping side of the business, from people like Under Canvas, Postcard Cabins, and really the big hospitality and hotel players starting to get into the space. Obviously, we know folks like Marriott and Hilton and Best Western and others who have started to kind of carve their lane into this space. But before kind of we give our take, Seth and Tori, how do you guys kind of see this? Do you think it's a good thing seeing more interest in the space in general? Not saying you guys are looking to sell to one of these big guys, but obviously some of these brands that have developed multiple locations that have, 10 or 15 or 20 that have developed a good brand with good experiences are starting to get kind of acquired. So do you see this as a good thing? Do you see more of the corporate glamping side of things being good for our industry?
So I'll take both sides on this, because I think in some regards, like, there will be a professional standard that would prevent some people from trying glamping and being disappointed by it. And so obviously, I see that as a risk to us when people go, like, they try to do some kind of outdoor hospitality concept and it's half baked, then, that's not a good experience, and it might make you never want to do that again. So I think that's on the micro. On the macro, I was talking to one of our advisors. He basically helped launch the Montage brand. And he said, he has heard so many of his customers say recently that, corporate interests, private equity, and specifically like the revenue managers have ruined some of the most prestigious hotels. Like, they're like the Ritz-Carlton experience or the Four Seasons or those, it's not the same. And why is that? And I think it's because, they go in there and they start looking at how they can value engineer everything. And when, one by one, like on the individual level, it doesn't appear that you're going to really impact the experience that much, but it becomes like death by 1,000 cuts, where you're just taking away a little bit here, a little bit there. And before you know it, the magic that came from, a founder-led company, a visionary, doing certain things a particular way because someone truly believes they matter, that's lost in translation when private equity comes in and decides that they want to do something else and just really squeeze the lemon as hard as they can to make as much lemonade. Like, what's left for the guest to enjoy if you're like basically just creating something that's mainly a profit machine and not a people driven experience, purpose driven kind of thing.
Yeah.
So for us, what we see also is like a lot of the people who are coming to work for Bolt Farm did work at some of these companies, and then they saw the difference themselves, and they were like, you know what, I'm out on this. Like, this is not the same. Like, we've lost the plot, and we're like, our goal is not to sell to private equity. We own this 100%. We're fully in control of our own destiny. We're able to steer and outmaneuver really fast. There's no corporate red tape. There's no baloney that you would deal with bigger corporations. Like, our people have a voice, and we are an idea meritocracy. So, like, I want to know, how can we solve this problem? And if that solution comes from a housekeeper or a senior manager, like, it doesn't matter to me. We're like, we get in a room together. We're like, let's solve this. We're like, cool, we're going to go with that. Let's do it. And then the next day we're implementing change. Like, that's the pace at which I thrive on, and this business is thriving on. And that's something that I think will be a huge detriment to, evolution. And then also, ultimately the guest experience, like, it become homogenized as well. So what you want, great. But like, I think people really look to outdoor hospitality for a new experience and a fresh experience. The best versions of that are founder led. And it's from people that see, that they're building something for generational impact, not to like pump and dump to private equity.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was super excited to get your input on this kind of idea and concept, because I think it, you use the word homogenize, and I think of like kind of the commoditization of the industry, right? Marriott goes and buys 30 postcard cabins locations, which, I mean, to start, that was, there's two different kinds of units. They're all painted. They're all the same black stained cedar, the same floor plan. It's a great concept, and I'm a big fan of their model, but like, it's the opposite end of the spectrum of what you guys are doing here. And so I just think it's super interesting that, like, people use the cliche of having a moat in business. And I think you guys have this incredible moat, which is really just to say that you've created a lot of unique, really compelling and compounding successes over and over again, creating this really awesome guest experience that for your business, it should be encouraging as hell. I mean, it's kind of depressing for the industry on the pessimistic view of what this all might mean, but for a Bolt Farm Treehouse type location, it's further separation from kind of the mean, and should mean, more demand for what you guys got going on there, which I think is super interesting. It's an interesting time in the industry. It's not, I don't think anyone really knows what's going to happen. We're all kind of guessing. Everyone's kind of paving their own way and figuring out their path. There's no blueprint. I think you guys are a perfect example of that. It's I think you're creating the blueprint for people like myself, like maybe an aspiring developer who wants to have a unique location. You guys are kind of laying the foundation there. So, that being said, I'm gonna jump out here. Appreciate your time. Looking forward to keeping in touch. I've got my eye on the upcoming. I think in August you have I'm talking to my wife about it, but I'm a big fan, and I've got my eye on that. So before you guys hang up, definitely tell the people about what you got going on with the workshops and everything. And with that, I'll leave you all to it. And thanks so much.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Matt. Hope have a great time in New York. Looking forward to hearing about it more next week on the next episode.
Awesome. Thanks all.
All right. See ya. All right, guys. So with that, we can jump in. We've got a few more stories to kind of run through the rest of today. We'll kind of speed run through this. We try and keep this to around 40 minutes. I know we've had a great chance to talk a little bit about your story. So we'll kind of go through some industry news. I'll give you guys a chance to kind of add your commentary and touch to it as we run through this. So our next story from Outside Magazine. Matt and I talked a little bit about this last week, really talking about outdoor gear and how people more and more today, it's becoming kind of a cool thing to look like you like the outdoors, even if you're from the city, somebody from New York or Chicago. You kind of we've heard about, like, the finance people with the Patagonia vest, or you've got a nice pair of wingtip boots and all of the outdoor gear and experiences that I think people feel that calling to, even if they can't participate in the outdoors on a daily basis. They want to wear it. They want to try and experience it. They want to feel like they're a part of it. But really, this is kind of coming on the news of obviously recent tariffs coming in, and a lot of outdoor gear folks, as cited by the Outdoor Industry Association, almost 84% of people are saying that their business has really been impacted by the tariffs, and they're actually starting to potentially look at taking losses on products, or really having to raise rates for different types of gear, like footwear, hammocks, kayaks, all the kind of expensive stuff that you would need to make an adventure. So have you heard anything about this from any of your customers, people who maybe are experiencing the outdoor economy where you guys are? Is this something that you're kind of paying attention to or seeing yourselves?
We're not hearing that from our people, but I mean, I think our customers, because, our average daily rates, north of $700, right? It's like, they're more the crowd that, like, they're not really looking at the exact cost of the gas that they put in their car, or like whatever, you know what I mean? And so they're going on a vacation and they want to, look the part, or, or buy new gear, then they just do it. You know? So, I mean, on the whole, it's like, the price of everything's going up. Like, you can't print trillions of dollars and expect prices not to go up. So,
and I would add to that, I guess, like, I think the property vibe here leans a little bit more towards wellness than that adventure. Like, yes, Chattanooga is very much known for like that outdoor adventure, the rock climbing, the kayaking. But like here, people are coming just to be like, they come here, they want the treehouse experience, they want the spa day, so it's like, it's a little bit of a different vibe, I guess.
And I think that may even reinforce the people who want to come and say, great, you have everything here on property for me to do. I don't have to buy the expensive gear to maybe have to leave property to go do it. As you said, they can buy the accommodation and have the wellness and explore the property and do all of the things and not have to shell out that additional money. So I think that may even reinforce more of that all-inclusive, highly service-focused model that you guys have, because honestly, as you said, your folks don't have to really worry about that as you might if you were staying at a state park and spending $40 a night and then having to bring all of your gear with you to really have a great, enjoyable stay.
Here's why I think tariffs are great for glamping and outdoor hospitality. Like, there is so much just like cheap crap that is sold from China and Estonia and Eastern Europe, where like they are promising you the world and they do not deliver on what they promise. And we've experienced that firsthand. We've bought things that like, it's supposed to be turnkey. It didn't pass code. It cost us 6 figures to actually get it up to code because we had to rewire the whole thing. All this. I mean, I just don't think that's good for business because it's not a great experience. Like most of the like people who are out there and they're buying these things thinking like, oh, wow, I could get this dome from China for like $8,000. It's like, that's about how much.
Feel like $8,000. Like it's going to be crap. Yeah.
Right.
I think like that I see as a threat versus if people, if for the American experience, if we were just building things and building it well, yes, it will cost more. Yes, the nightly rate will be more, to justify that. But like the experience will be better. Like, do you really like? I just don't think people want a made in China vacation experience.
Right. And I think it, as you said, it definitely cheapens the experience. And especially when folks lump in an $8,000 dome in with something like the experiences you guys have. And we call all of that glamping when people think about that. And you could have somebody who has a really horrible experience in that with a really, cheap canvas, or it's probably not even, real good canvas covering. It's some sort of like, plastic sheeting cover or something on top of the dome. Who knows, for those horror stories of like the thing completely falling apart as somebody staying in it, right? Because it's just not put together well or not made well. And I think that turns people off from glamping altogether to be like, this was horrible. I never want to experience this again, where they might not even know that there's something like a Bolt Farm treehouse and a really great experience where they could come and have a totally different experience than that type of thing. So I think it's a really unique conversation, as you said, about probably weeding out a lot of those folks. And look, if somebody does have a really low cost piece of gear that they're now having to raise rates for, it's kind of putting everybody on par, where the folks who are building things well and building things made in America, they really didn't have to change their prices. You're probably building a healthy supportive margin for your business already into what you're making. And now everybody else is kind of having to rise to that level. And it's a really good indicator of like, well, what's already good quality and what's not. And you can really see that once the prices kind of start to level out a little bit. So I think that's a really interesting point.
And something we tell aspiring developers and people who are, looking to scale their businesses at the workshops that we now lead at Bolt Farm is that, do you really want to invest into these like concepts that are made in mass and will become commodities? Because I believe that's a race to the bottom. Like if you're not bringing anything new, you're not designing anything yourself, or at least getting some sort of exclusivity.
Right. On the piece of property even, right? You can take a really commoditized unit and do a nice job of how it sits on your property and call it the unique features. And as you said, there's ways to do that where you can take a good starting point and say, okay, they got this right. Now what can I do to make it different?
Yeah, it's a race to the bottom when everyone's got the same mirrored cabin. You know what I mean? That's why we design our own. Like we design everything ourselves, and we spend a lot of money on a per unit basis. But people feel that when they're here.
And speaking of exclusive escapes, our next story comes courtesy of Outdoorsy. We know Jason and Jennifer Young over at Outdoorsy and have known the crew over there for quite some time. They announced the launch of what they call Outdoorsy Escapes, where they took, it's a really kind of interesting concept. Obviously, Outdoorsy is known for their RV rentals, and, you know, somebody who, you know, is new to that world, who can go rent the unit, go to a great property, have a great experience. And what they've really looked at is said, hey, how can we create more of a destination-like experience? They have started with 24 destinations, really in Texas, California, and Florida, trying to pair great RVs, kind of the top 4 to 5 RV models that people all across the country rent and have a great experience in, and take really great destinations that people are also known for loving, and trying to pair them together to, as I think we've kind of highlighted this whole show, having more of that all-inclusive kind of high touch point experience, where that person who is new to the world of RVing can come in and say, I don't know the first thing about where to stay, what type of unit to pick out, how to use it. I can go to Outdoorsy, have a one flat rate. We're starting at about $245 a night, and get this type of experience. They partner with Spots a Night, who we also know really well in the OTA space, to kind of pick out these first 24 locations. And they've incorporated brands like Camp Margaritaville, Jetstream, Sky, some that folks are probably familiar with in the RV side of the space. How do you guys kind of see this more destination-like program? Do you think that combining, I know you guys don't really play in the RV space, but combining the RV rental with the destination, is that a smart move? Just kind of looking at how you guys like to operate, bringing high service and high touch point into things?
I think so. I think the more you can lean into luxury, and there are people, there's, the audience who really cares about RVs, and that's what they want to do. How do you do that at the highest level? Making it an experience with a beautiful destination. I like that you mentioned the all-inclusive, kind of the full set. That's what we're leaning into more now ourselves here, because we feel like, when you're in your 20s or whatever, you're just starting out, you trade time for money. You have more time than money. So you're like, I'll plan my whole trip. I need to save some cash. I'll do all the legwork here. But as you get older, you get more established. It's the opposite. You want to actually flip it and buy back your time.
Right. And you might only have 2 to 3 times total that whole year where you can have a really incredible experience. And you want to make sure that that's great.
Yeah. You're like, hey, full send, like just take care of everything. I don't want to plan anything. I just want to show up. I want to do the spa. I want the food. I want the good location, all the things. And I think, based on like where we are at in our lives, like that's kind of how we think. And we've seen our guests kind of transition to that too. And so I think whatever industry it is, I think that all-inclusive, the destination, making it an experience, that's something that it's really a story worth telling that people will share about.
And part of our story is that we, because we bootstrapped this whole business, that required us to sell our house and live on the properties we were developing in an RV. So I've lived in an RV for the last 3 years. So I think RVs are amazing for that. I think they're a great way for anyone who's wanting to get ahead in life to utilize that as an alternative housing option that prevents them from just giving all their money to banks via interest.
Right.
So, but I can't quite wrap my head around this concept, because it seems like it might be a little bit of a tweener, meaning the RV crowd, they own an RV. And I think, and I'm all for, luxury destinations for RVs, like having epic views and all the accommodations and everything else. If you're already an RVer, that makes a lot of sense to me. If you're going to travel somewhere to stay in an RV where, there's a bunch of RVs, would you do that? I don't think I would do that.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I know even just talking to the marketing folks there, I believe they're kind of gearing it towards that family who, as you said, may be busy. The person from Outdoorsy can go to the campground, actually set up the unit for you, have everything right, where you don't want to have to deal with hooking up your sewer, your water, your electric. You just want a great weekend to bring the kids, do something that's family friendly. You want to have that more outdoorsy type experience, but you might just have that learning curve where you have no idea how to operate anything in the RV. So I think what you're paying for here is just the convenience and knowing that the two things you're getting on the RV side and then also on the destination are the best, right? It's the best 5 rental units that are, types of rental units that Outdoorsy has. And it's one of the best 24 destinations that Spots a Night has on their network. So I think it's more of that sense of somebody who wants to take the jump, is willing to pay a little bit more, not experienced with this, but at least there's a level of certainty there that like, okay, my stay is not going to suck. I may not end up loving RVing, but at least I can, dip my toe in the water with something that's good. I don't have to worry about that $8,000 dome or a really crappy unit I get from somebody that I'm just like going to go in and hate my RV for the first time. So I think if they're kind of gearing this towards that first time user or that person who truly has no experience in this, but it's just heard of RVing and thinks that it's an idea they want to explore, that's a really unique part of the market that they can kind of start to carve out, and hopefully lead people from like, you take the Outdoorsy Escape adventure and you lead kind of right into RV ownership or something as kind of your next step.
Gotcha. A little test run. Yeah.
Right. And obviously they've just kind of announced this, so it'll be really interesting to see kind of how this fares. And obviously this is right in time for, we're 1st of May today, start of the kind of busy summer season for most folks. So it'll be interesting to see how the destinations fare and how Outdoorsy fares with this new program.
Yeah. It's interesting to see also, like, okay, so if people try it and they love it, wouldn't that mean they would buy an RV?
Right.
Now they'll be looking for the alternative to that.
Right. And so in some ways, you might actually be helping people get out of the Outdoorsy rental network unintentionally. If they kind of go and fall in love with it and end up buying an RV, that's kind of it's an interesting part of it for sure. Because obviously they want that renter, both to get units from people looking to rent their RVs, but also the consumer who's coming to try and stay in one. So yeah, it's really interesting. If they do too good of a job, they might actually lose some customers. So it'll be interesting to explore that as well.
Yeah. And I also wonder, like, generationally, just, the traditional RV parks, like, it obviously takes, people who are willing to do the work and have the patience to do the setup and everything. And I just wonder if generationally, that is going to change and shift. I mean, that may be what they're banking on.
Right.
That, some people, they just, like, in a world where everything's on your phone and you get all this instant dopamine, like, it's not fun to spend an hour or two setting all that up and, having the responsibility of towing this big thing that you might mess up. So maybe they're on something, but it will be interesting to see how that plays out.
Absolutely. The next two stories I'll just run through quick as mentions is kind of recent acquisitions news, and then we'll round it out with some RV data and give you guys some chance to share a little bit about the workshops coming up. So on the acquisitions front, Open Road Resorts recently acquired this week an 125-site RV park in Wyoming. This marks their 6th acquisition in their 5-year history. They launched, I think I might have done that the other way. They launched back in 2019. This is either acquisition number 5 or 6 properties for them in that span of time. They ended up also selling a property, an RV park that they had between now and then. So they've really done a great job of growth. Obviously, they have some great money and capital that has come from El Catterton and Thor and other industry players in the space, and have really begun to carve out a nice network of RV parks. They've been really selective with locations, both, I believe, down in the Dallas-Fort Worth market and also some locations out west. So congrats to the entire team there on this acquisition. Obviously, again, right in time for summer season, and great location in Wyoming. That's a nice size property for them to really sink their teeth into. And then on another one on the acquisitions front, Timberline Glamping recently partnered with some folks, local family in the municipality in Alabama, on a new glamping site. They've got a bunch of locations, and obviously they are participant in the franchise side of the glamping market as well. Most of their locations are down west. This one's down south. This one is on the Alabama Gulf Coast, but really interesting. They've got 6 locations already in Alabama, but this is a really interesting one in the sense that there's kind of a 3-way partnership there that exists between the local government, the family who had the property, and then Timberline as the brand. So always love to see a community that wants to invite glamping into where they're at and kind of sets up ways to kind of support everybody and stay together. And then finally, to kind of round things out with RV news, most folks who are regular listeners of this show know that I'm a big data guy and can't help myself but share the RV wholesale shipment data from RVIA. This comes as kind of the March 2025 data, but really looking at the first quarter year to date, we're finishing with total RV shipments up about 13.9% total, which is a nice little jump compared to 2024. Like usual, we've hit on this for several weeks now. Motorhomes continue to lag behind in terms of sales, down about 10.5% year over year. And it's the luxury fifth wheel travel trailers up 30.8% year over year that are contributing in large effect to all of this great growth that's happening on the RV wholesale side. Guys, like, as we've mentioned, I know you guys do not cater to the RVer, but does it surprise you at all that kind of the higher end fifth wheel segment is the one that continues to be the grower here? And that it's, that itself, the luxury market, as we've touched on a lot today, is what people are really gravitating towards, or even a bigger unit, right? A family feels a lot more comfortable in a nice fifth wheel than they might in a small travel trailer. Does that surprise you that it's the luxury segment that's carrying the RV space right now?
It doesn't, because I think housing is just way too expensive. So
Right.
I would venture to guess a big slice of that pie for the fifth wheelers are people who are like, we're actually going to live in this, and we want to go ahead and get the nicest, biggest accommodation so that we can live in that. And I think also I'd be really interested to see these numbers compared to like 2021 or 2020. You know what I mean?
It's definitely still lagging. Obviously, yeah, we're looking at this compared to last year, which last year wasn't. If you talk to folks, it wasn't an amazing year. Still was, I think, probably a top 5, 6, 7 year all time. But as you said, from kind of the COVID numbers, we've definitely seen a dip, and we're on a little bit of a rise back. But good to see at least some growth from last year to this year. But as you pointed out, Seth, we're still a little bit behind what happened in COVID, or even kind of a little bit of post-COVID numbers.
Yeah, a bit of a roller coaster.
Absolutely. It's nice to see people are still RVing, though, and obviously nice to see that the larger units with more families that are, this is something that people, yes, it's an investment, but it is still cheaper than housing, and it's something that most people are probably going to have for the next 5, 10, 15 years. So it's a nice signal of strength, the future of outdoor hospitality and people getting outdoors and continuing to travel. And then, guys, as we wrap up, as promised, want to give you a little bit of a chance to plug sort of the workshops that you guys are going to be hosting coming up in August, right?
Yeah. It's cool that Matt announced that he'll be there. No, I'm just kidding. No, but
we'll try. We're busy, obviously, with camping season ourselves, but we will certainly try.
I'm playing, but yeah, I mean, we've been in this business for 10 years. We've done every facet of the business ourselves, figuring it out on our own. And looking back, we could have really compressed time had we surrounded ourselves with mentors of people who had been ahead of us and done what we were trying to do. And so now that is the game that we play. We surround ourselves with mentors. We invest 6 figures into our own development and having those people in our corner. And we want to be that for others, so that we can help people scale their short-term rental or get in the game. Because I think when you're first starting out, you're like, I have a cool property or a cool concept, but I have no idea how to get started. And if you do that blindly, that's a recipe for disaster. You're going to lose so much money. And while, we are a unique experiential resort, we've talked a lot today about RV parks and campgrounds and whatnot. And I think that applies to those folks too. Just yesterday I was at Heather Blankenship's mastermind group talking to them, and she's
Heather.
killer in the RV park.
She's the queen of RV parks. Absolutely.
But I was taking them through this framework, and they're like, wow, like this really applies as well. So I think it's really for anybody in the outdoor hospitality space. If you want to scale your business, and that doesn't necessarily have to mean 50 plus units. It could just mean you want to boost your profitability. But if you want to play smarter and either grow your business or get started, come out. We do these workshops at Bolt Farm. So it's really cool. It's intimate. It's like 15 businesses. And you're here in the core of everything that we do, sing behind the curtain, sing our ops buildings, our construction site, a tour of every villa. And again, we keep it really intimate. We're really selective of who's in the room because we want to make sure that it's people that we can truly help. And then also, like, it's part of our bigger picture plan for how we grow through acquisition and partnerships. And so again, that's why we're really choosy about who's in the room, but it also allows us to go really deep with each individual to make sure we can, do interactive Q&A and get to the core of their business constraints.
And one of the most surprising things, I think, is that people come for information, right? And to learn, but then they leave realizing, like, these are my people.
Yeah.
And joining our mastermind group is a way that you can, like, actually have your community. Because if you're
so nice when everybody's like-minded, and wanting the same thing out of it. Right. There's no sort of secret motivation or wondering like, oh, are these people, Have they drank the Kool-Aid a little bit too? Are they in on this idea? It's like everybody's in on it. You've got supportive partners there.
Yeah. I mean, if you're building something, like, it can be lonely in the sense that, like, you work a lot to build it and scale it and get off the ground with your team and all the things. And so it doesn't leave you with a lot of time for, social interaction. So you want that to be quality, and you want to, I think we feel the most energized when we're around people who are also building big things and doing big things, and getting to hear, their strategies for success and what's working for them. And so we've got a whole mastermind group and platform where we literally, everyone's in there sharing value on a daily basis of what they're doing. I mean, from the simple is like, look, this is the exact brand of robe that we use and people love them, to like, use this spreadsheet the next time you buy a property, or this is how you need to be thinking about scaling your occupancy during your low season, and what you can do, and marketing tips and tricks and resources to connect with. So it's been a lot of fun, and we've gotten just great feedback from it. So it's encouraged us to keep doing it.
Love that. And where can people go if they're interested in kind of talking more or seeing if this is a good fit? Where can people go to find more information about the workshops, or even connect with you guys if they've want to learn more about what Bolt Farm has to offer?
Yeah, the best place is our website, Bolt Farm Treehouse. It's right there on the screen, boltfarmtreehouse.com. And you can see the workshop under events. And then also on social, we're on all the places. I would say we're probably the most active on Instagram, and you can always see info about that there.
Wonderful. Seth and Tori, thank you guys so much for joining Matt and I today. You guys are a wealth of knowledge, and really appreciate you coming on to share some news. It was obviously amazing seeing the renderings of those mirrored cabin unit. I'm going to have to get out there myself. You may see Matt and I both kind of planning and scheming how we can get down there to check it out, and maybe we can do another Good Morning Outdoors on site.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Like,
live from the floating
view of
exactly.
in the background. Yeah. We'll do a podcast from a treehouse.
That's it, man. That would be an industry first, I think. I don't know that's been done, at least not here on Hospitality FM.
Yeah.
But guys, thank you again so much for taking some time. Know you're incredibly busy, and really appreciate you joining Matt and I here today.
Yeah, thank you,
Alex.
Bye.
See you soon.
All right, thanks, guys.
Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Lodgify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts. Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.